Right now, take a second and think about this. Beneath your conscious thoughts, deeper than your logic, and older than your earliest memories, there is a powerful inner engine running your life. It dictated how you responded the last time someone criticized you, why you keep bumping into the exact same relationship hurdles, and why certain financial worries never seem to go away. Here is the wildest part. You didn't program any of it. Your subconscious mind did. Joseph Murphy, a legendary pioneer in exploring the depths of the human mind, uncovered a truth that changes everything once it clicks. You are not broken. You are not cursed by bad luck. And you are not just wired this way. You have simply been running outdated mental software. And software can always be rewritten. Over the next few minutes, we are going to dive deep into exactly how that rewriting takes place, not through boring academic theories, but through real-world mechanics, relatable stories, and practical tools you can start using tonight. By the time this video wraps up, you will understand your own mind better than most people ever do in a lifetime. Let's dive in. Murphy's entire philosophy is built on a simple premise. You don't just have one mind. You have two working in tandem. First, you have your conscious mind, the analytical, reasoning, decision-making part of you. It sits on the deck of the ship like a captain giving orders, fully convinced it's running the entire vessel. Then, you have your subconscious mind, the crew working tirelessly down in the engine room. That crew doesn't argue with the captain, and it doesn't question instructions. It executes them blindly, with total obedience, whether the directive was, "I am completely capable," or "I always mess things up." Here is the crucial detail most people completely miss. The subconscious cannot tell the difference between a real-life experience and a vividly imagined one. It doesn't know the difference between an objective truth and a harmless lie you've repeated to yourself for a decade. It only understands two things: repetition and emotional intensity. Feed it a message often enough, loaded with enough feeling, and it will build your entire reality around that belief, whether it's true or not. Imagine a child who was told, even as a joke, "You are so clumsy," 100 times while growing up. That child eventually grows into an adult who drops things, trips over flat surfaces, and calls themselves clumsy without ever questioning the origin of that identity. Nobody sat them down and proved it with hard science. It was simply repeated until the subconscious accepted it as absolute fact. Once accepted, it went straight to work making it true, subtly adjusting posture, split-second attention, and muscle coordination to match the belief. This is the core mechanism Murphy wants you to grasp. Your subconscious isn't malicious, and it certainly isn't trying to sabotage your happiness. It is actually the most loyal employee you will ever have. The catch? It has simply been taking orders from the wrong voice. And the voice giving most of those instructions wasn't even yours to begin with. It was absorbed from parents, teachers, cultural pressures, early heartbreaks, and fears long before you had the mental filters to block any of it. The brilliant, liberating news buried in all of this is massive. If repetition and emotion built the limiting beliefs currently running your life, then deliberately directed repetition and emotion can completely replace them. That isn't just empty motivational talk. It is the actual operating mechanism of human psychology. It's like a general shouting new commands at an army that has already been heavily drilled and conditioned to do the exact opposite. The general can yell at the top of their lungs, but unless the underlying training of the army changes, those new orders get thrown out the window the second stress or fatigue creeps in. Consider someone trying to quit smoking. Every conscious fiber of their being wants to stop. They know the severe health risks. They've read the warnings on the packaging, and they've made solemn promises to themselves a dozen times. But the exact moment high stress hits, their hand instinctively reaches for the pack before their conscious mind can even finish thinking, "I shouldn't be doing this." That isn't a lack of willpower or personal weakness. That is simply the subconscious executing a deeply ingrained program, installed over years of repetition and emotional association. Cigarette equals instant relief. This is precisely why Murphy insists that lasting personal transformation is never forced through sheer willpower. It happens through deep impression. You don't beat your subconscious mind into submission. Instead, you learn to speak its native language, repetition, vivid imagery, emotion, and most importantly, a state of deep relaxation where its defensive gatekeepers are lowered and new instructions can finally get through. This brings us to the law of substitution. Here is a principle from Murphy's work that quietly serves as one of the most powerful tools in the entire philosophy. The human mind cannot hold two contradictory thoughts with equal intensity at the exact same time. One will always take dominance. This is the law of substitution, and it means you are never actually trying to delete a negative belief. You can't just erase a mental groove that has been carved into your psyche for 20 years. What you can do is carve a brand new, deeper groove right alongside it, until the water, meaning your attention and emotional energy, naturally flows down the fresh path instead. Think of it like a well-worn hiking trail, cutting through a thick forest. Everyone in town uses that specific trail because it's been there for years. It's smooth, entirely familiar, and easy to navigate, even in the dark. Now, suppose you want people to stop using it. You don't need to spend weeks dynamiting the old trail. You simply build a new one right next to it that is wider, safer, and far more inviting. Over time, people naturally gravitate toward the new path, and the old trail slowly grows over from sheer disuse. Practically speaking, this means that instead of exhausting yourself fighting the heavy thought, "I am terrible with money," you don't argue with it, suppress it, or shame yourself for feeling that way. You substitute it. Repeatedly, deliberately, and with genuine feeling, you install a new script. I handle money wisely, and wealth flows to me in expected and unexpected ways. Spoken once, like a chore, it does nothing. The old trail is simply too deep. But spoken with quiet conviction, twice a day for weeks, while emotionally engaged, it begins to take over as the dominant mental highway. Murphy emphasizes that half-hearted repetition, completely detached from emotion, is virtually useless because the subconscious only truly responds to an emotional charge. This is why reading a positive affirmation off a sticky note in a flat, bored tone rarely moves the needle. This leads us directly to the golden windows of opportunity. Relaxation right before sleep and right after waking up. Murphy places enormous emphasis on the mental state you inhabit during these brief transition periods. In these specific windows, the conscious mind, the strict gatekeeper, the cynic, the internal critic is naturally quiet. Brainwave activity shifts and the usual daily mental noise fades away. This is what he calls the ultimate doorway into the subconscious. Here is why this matters so much for your daily growth. During normal waking hours, if you try to tell yourself, "I am deeply confident and capable," your conscious mind might immediately talk back with a cynical smirk. "No, you're not. Remember what happened last Tuesday?" That immediate internal argument blocks the message from ever penetrating deeper. But in that drowsy, relaxed state, right before sleep, the gatekeeper has essentially stepped away from the post. Whatever thoughts and impressions you feed your mind in that narrow window tend to slip right through unchallenged. Picture someone lying in bed at night. Instead of grabbing their phone for one last mindless scroll or replaying an annoying argument from earlier that day, they quietly repeat to themselves, "Every part of me is healing and resetting. I release today completely. I move forward calm, centered, and clear." It isn't shouted or forced, it's felt slowly and softly, like a calming lullaby aimed inward. Night after night, this is how the deepest mental reprogramming occurs, because it bypasses the argumentative conscious mind almost entirely. This is also why the thoughts you choose to fall asleep with matter infinitely more than most people realize. If you drift off to sleep replaying an argument, nursing anger, or chewing on anxious thoughts about tomorrow, you are essentially handing your subconscious its direct instructions for the overnight shift. It will take whatever raw emotional residue you leave at that threshold and weave it straight into your default operating system. Another common pitfall is treating visualization like wishing on a shooting star, vague, hopeful, and entirely passive. Murphy's approach is the exact opposite. Visualization, when done correctly, is much closer to providing precise technical instructions to an advanced machine that will follow every detail. The subconscious doesn't respond well to vague desires like, "I hope things get better soon." That gives it nothing concrete to build. But a specific, highly sensory, emotionally rich scene? That is a legitimate blueprint. Murphy describes this as mentally acting the part beforehand, until the feeling of already possessing your goal becomes so familiar that the subconscious accepts it as your new normal state. From there, it works quietly and relentlessly behind the scenes to arrange real-world circumstances that match it. For instance, someone struggling with severe anxiety before public speaking doesn't just tell themselves, "I won't be nervous." Instead, they close their eyes and construct a full sensory scene. They feel their feet firmly planted on the stage floor, hear the steady, calm tone of their own voice, see a friendly face nodding in the third row, and feel their shoulders drop and their breathing level out. They run this mental clip slowly, adding rich sensory details for just a few minutes a day in the weeks leading up to the actual event. What's happening here is not some mystical trick. It's high-level mental rehearsal at the deepest layer of the mind. It is the exact same mechanism elite athletes have relied on for decades, mentally practicing a flawless performance so thoroughly that the nervous system treats it as familiar territory rather than a terrifying threat. By the time the real event arrives, the subconscious isn't encountering something dangerous and unmapped. It's stepping into a scenario it has already successfully lived through hundreds of times in vivid inner rehearsal. We also have to talk about words as seeds, the immense power of spoken language. Murphy treats language itself as one of the most underestimated tools at our disposal. Every sentence you casually speak about yourself isn't just a harmless description. It is a literal seed planted straight into the soil of your subconscious. And soil doesn't sit around judging the quality of the seed. It simply grows whatever is dropped into it. This is why phrases people throw around every day without a second thought, like, "I never have enough time," "I'm just naturally terrible with directions," or "nothing good ever works out for me," are far from innocent complaints. They are repeated instructions. Spoken often enough, with enough frustration behind them, they morph into self-fulfilling prophecies. Not because the universe is out to punish anyone, but because the subconscious has been given clear, repetitive directions on what kind of reality to construct. Consider two people stuck in the exact same frustrating traffic jam. One mutters under their breath, "Of course this happens to me. My whole day is completely ruined now." The other takes a deep breath and says, "All right, unexpected extra time. I'll use it to mentally map out that project." Same exact external event, but two completely different internal instructions handed down to the subconscious. Over months and years, those small daily commands compound into two drastically different emotional operating systems. Murphy's suggestion here is deceptively simple. Become quietly suspicious of your own casual language. Not in a way that triggers guilt or obsessive self-monitoring anxiety, but in a way that treats your spoken words with the exact same care you'd give to typing a critical command into a computer system you know will execute it word for word, because that is precisely what you are doing. Another brilliant chapter of this philosophy focuses heavily on the surprising mechanics of forgiveness and resentment. Murphy frames unforgiveness not as a moral failing, but as a severe maintenance issue, much like running a heavy background program on a computer that quietly drains your system's resources without your conscious awareness.
Holding on to bitter anger towards someone doesn't actually punish them. They are usually completely unaware and unaffected by it.
What it does do is keep a toxic emotional circuit alive inside your own subconscious, continuously reinforcing a narrative of being wronged, powerless, or victimized. That narrative then bleeds into and distorts how you interpret every new relationship and situation that follows. So, how do we pull all of this together into a practical, daily routine? Distilled down, Murphy's approach looks something like this. First, morning and night, while in that relaxed threshold state, you feed your subconscious specific, emotionally charged, present tense statements about who you are already becoming, using I am rather than I will be. Second, throughout the normal rush of the day, you stay alert to careless language, gently swapping out disempowering phrases for deliberate ones the moment you catch yourself. Third, you use visualization, not as wishful daydreaming, but as detailed, sensory-rich rehearsal run, consistently over time, treating your mind like a muscle that needs proper conditioning. Finally, you actively release old resentments, not for anyone else's benefit, but to stop background programs from quietly hijacking your present reactions. None of this operates as a one-time magic trick. Murphy is deeply emphatic that your subconscious was conditioned over many years through repetition, and it will only ever be reconditioned the exact same way, through patient, layered repetition day after day, until the new mental groove finally becomes deeper than the old one ever was. Here is the ultimate takeaway beneath everything we've covered today. You were never lazy, cursed, or fundamentally flawed. You were simply running instructions that were installed long before you had any say in the matter. And the exact moment you realize those instructions can be identified, questioned, and deliberately swapped out, you stop being a helpless passenger in your own mind and finally become the one holding the steering wheel. Your subconscious doesn't care about your past failures. It holds no grudges, and it doesn't need special permission. It only requires new, consistent instructions delivered with genuine feeling, and it will start working on your behalf just as relentlessly as it once worked against you. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of how your mind actually operates, imagine what a full immersion in these ideas night after night could build for your life. Hit subscribe to Wise Leaf Audiobooks for more deep dive breakdowns like this one, and drop a comment below letting us know which old belief are you ready to substitute first.